Johnny Evans on the edge of returning to Manchester United on a permanent deal. 1 year, but a permanent deal. How do you feel about that, Man United fans? Genuinely. No cap, no BS, no protecting the club, no being a Glazer, no trying to find the silver lining. Honesty. How do you feel about it? I did a bit of a tongue-in-cheek video last night. Some people react to titles more than they do listening to the content. That's a plight on them. Where I spoke about Man United's season being finished, Man United's season already being over. The lack of transfer activity is what led me to feel a lot of that in that way. And today it just goes from bad to worse. I didn't want to speak about it again, but I have to. Man United win the Carabao Cup, and we are keeping Maguire, one of the worst signings this club has ever made, who will now become the sixth choice centre-back at the club, and Johnny Evans signing a 1-year contract. You compare that to Man City. Laporte, who's 29 years old, leaves, and they sign one of the best young centre-backs in the world in Guardiola. Now, they won the treble, and they are looking to keep standards high. They are looking to continue to get better by making moves like this. Phenomenal business from them. Man United win a trophy. We improve year one. And because of bad financial management of the club over the last decade, a lack of ambition from our ownership, a flawed sales process, and our club's board's inability to sell players at the right price, Erik ten Hag is being hamstrung again. This is an abomination. It is a joke. And it is damaging our season. This is killing Man United's chances this year of progression. 110%. Fans will focus on what they see on the pitch, but they won't. Not enough of them will look at what goes on behind the scenes that manifest these issues. And this isn't the only problem. There's talk today that although Man United have registered an interest in Ryan Gravenberch, a player the manager really wants, figures at the club insist a move would become is contingent on outgoings. But we can't get rid of anybody. We've had a £30 million bid for McTominay turned down. We failed to secure a deal for the exit of Maguire over a £7 or £8 million payout to him. We offered him 6. He wanted a little bit more. We said no. So that's 60 odd million pound of incoming that's gone. Henderson is still at the club. That's £20 million. You're looking at £80 million there alone. Brandon Williams now may have gone on a year loan, but there's so many players that should have left this club and we can't get deals done. We've hung on to Martial for too long. There's no interest in him. I still see Man United fans tell me he's one of our best, he's our best striker. No club in the world wants to buy him. Wake up and smell the coffee, for God's sakes. Man United are in trouble. Man United's season is finished if we don't get additional midfielders in and additional centre-backs of high quality. And not just high quality, but we need some P&P. I know people don't like that word. It's become a dirty word in football, but it's essential. You need technical ability and you need power and pace. You don't reduce players down to just that. But when you look at the size and the stamina and the strength and the speed that the Rasmus Højlunds, the Amrabat's and Gravenberches and the Todibos would give Manchester United, it changes the dynamics of how we play. But it isn't happening unless people are sold. There's less than a week to go in this window, and we are still failing the manager. Now, the manager has made mistakes. The manager is not beyond criticism. I'll never ever state that. But we're failing him again. No new midfielders. Johnny Evans. And to add insult to injury today, there is a report from Samuel Luckhurst that Rasmus Højlund's debut may be delayed until after the September internationals. So that means a home game against Nottingham Forest and a match away to Arsenal, one of the best teams in the country and a team that will prove themselves to be one of the best in Europe this season. We're going to the Emirates, by the way, where we have a horrendous record of late. We're going to go into that game with Mount out injured, no Mainu, no new centre-back, no Amrabat, no Gravenberch, no Højlund. You've got Sancho and Anthony on the right, who both consistently stink the place out when they play for Man United. Rashford will be taken out of his best position on the left, where he is dynamite most of the time, and placed in the middle, where he becomes a shadow of himself. He's not a number 9. There are definitely failings here of the manager. I would have gone for Amrabat and Gravenberch before signing Mason Mount. I would do that. I would have done that. You can put that on him. But there's no way a club with the turnover and the size and the fan base of Man United should be hamstrung. When you actually look at the combined total fees of all of these players this summer, combined total, if we went out and bought Gravenberch today, 20 odd million. Amrabat, 20, 25 million. 55 for Mount. Do the math. You're looking at £100 million outlay. Clubs with less income than Man United, like Arsenal, have dropped more than that on Rice. More than that when you add in Kai Havertz to the mix. Chelsea, look how much their midfielders cost them. Man City, willing to drop the money they were on Paqueta, the money they've spent on Guardiola, the money they're about to go and spend on the Ezes and the Dokus of this world. Everybody's spending money. Liverpool may not have spent what their fans expected. They've done 70 million on Szoboszlai, 35 million on McAllister, and they bid 110 million for Caicedo. If any of you believe that Erik ten Hag is not being, if any of you believe that Ten Hag is not being tripped up here, if the rug is not being pulled from under his feet in the same way it was for Jose and LVG, where they either didn't buy him the players that he wanted, or they cut budgets, or they stopped the sale of players that they wanted gone, for one reason or another, it's happening again. And of course, all those managers, you could level criticisms at them. Of course you can. That isn't what's being stated here. But Jose wanted Martial and Pogba gone. Was told no, they have to stay. He wanted to sign new centre-backs. Was told no, you had some last year, you can't have any more. Wanted a midfielder. Was told you've got Fred. He said, I don't want Fred. Fred don't suit what I'm going to do. And again, Fred had a handful of good games for Man United over a 4 or 5 year period. That's it. We're doing it again now. We're not getting the manager what he wants. He's hamstrung because of legacy issues and debt that's been lumbered upon this club. And we are going to turn on Ten Hag. The fans, and I say we, because I put us all in the same group here, the fans will turn on Ten Hag first. Because the media will indoctrinate you into believing this is not an ownership or a Glazer issue. This is a management problem. He's had 400 million. What are you complaining about? Again, they'll stop, they'll rewrite history. Yes, he's undoing a colossally poor squad that was built before. They're trying to undo years of issues and change the style of football at the club, which costs hundreds of millions of pounds to do. And what will end up happening, and I'm predicting it now, if we don't get these players in, there'll be a regression, there'll be pressure on the manager who'll be sacked, and then it will be back to square one of starting another rebuild, which, by the way, you'll be 300 to 400 million pounds in and nowhere near completing, especially if the style of football and the profile of player changes again. How do I know all of this? I'm not a genius. I'm not smarter than anybody else. It's just the history of what's happened for a goddamn decade. But instead, again, we'll focus on the manager. We'll think that sacking him is going to cause the problems. His talent ID is bad. It's always the manager's fault. Never the way we're run. I'm sick. I'm sick of it. I honestly feel so angry right now at my club. Now, we might turn this around and you'll come back to this video and say, Terry, you overreacted. You were too reactionary. You were too much of a knee-jerk reaction to what's going on. And I hope and I pray to God, you right there, I hope you're right. Genuinely hope that you are right. I really do. I hope that you're bang on. I hope that we land these players. I hope we go from strength to strength this season. But if we don't get the manager, the personnel he wants, add that extra size and strength and speed and power into this team, our season's done. Man United are finished. We will end up sacking this manager if the Glazers stay. It's always the same story. And I know already in the comments, some of you are not going to get to 9 minutes and 43. You've already commented and left. I know that some of you are going to write things like, but he's bought this and he bought Anthony and he's awful. Yeah, he's allowed to buy players that don't work out. Every single manager has done that. Every great has bought players for big money irrespective of their era of the game, that have not that have failed. That doesn't mean you don't continue to back them. But we can't continue to back this guy because we don't have the money to do it. We don't have the infrastructure to do it. We don't have the board to do it. Hamstrung. Again and again and again and again. And when you see your biggest two rivals this year in City and Arsenal, because I think that they're our biggest two in terms of winning titles, improve the way they have, and you look at our business, you look at the lack of investment that a club our size should be spending, the inability to sell players, nothing but an embarrassment. Manchester United are finished if we don't make these improvements this summer. But even if we do, it's an utter embarrassment. And I don't like being negative about my club, but I've got to call this out. Johnny Evans coming back. Just Højlund, who's injured. And maybe no new midfield players, with Mainu and Mount both out injured. By the way, for anywhere between 6 to 2 months. 6 weeks to 2 months. Tell me why I shouldn't be frustrated right now, and I'll change my mind. It's a joke. Hit the like and share button, man. I'll see you soon.